So I'm going to just start off just saying, welcome back to another way to think about it podcast, where we get really curious about life beyond the obvious and explore life's messy questions with humor, heart, and a willingness to just see things differently. Just try it. I'm Cynthia.
And I'm Lynn. And today we're delighted to welcome someone who has spent her life creating not just music, but community, connection, beauty, and belonging, and art, and writing books. Sara Hickman is an award-winning singer, songwriter, artist, storyteller, activist, entrepreneur, and community builder, and more. For decades, she's been making music, supporting causes she believes in, uplifting other artists, and finding creative ways to bring people together. What fascinates us most is that Sara seems to live at the intersection of creativity, compassion, courage, and curiosity. And that's exactly the kind of conversation we love to have here. Sara, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. Yay!
Yay, finally, after all this. Hey, Sara, I have a question for you. I want listeners to, know that you guys have known each other for a while, but, Lynn, carry it from there.
Okay, so many years ago, we found ourselves connected through a remarkable spiritual community here in Austin. And I think it was just Austin, through a book by our very good friend, Michael Blair and Roy Spence, called The Amazing Faith of Texas. And I think you can still get it out there. I remember seeing it at the bookstores, and you could see a gorgeous photo of our Sara Hickman. Life has taken us in different directions since then, but one thing I've always admired about you is the way you've moved through the world, creating things, music, art, community, conversations, opportunities for people to feel seen, Sara. And what strikes me now is that while so much has changed in the world, you still seem deeply committed to hope, creativity, and human connection. So maybe that's where I'd like to begin. What has life been teaching you lately?
Well, that's a big question. Between what's happening with the United States of America and the battle to save our democracy, plus being a caregiver for my mother, who is 89 years old, and moving to a small town in Texas and learning to create connections locally compared to worldwide, like I used to try to do. I think I've learned that now that I'm 63, I can still create hope and I can still create connections. But my focus is locally because I believe that if I'm working locally to uplift others and again bring hope through our community connections, and other people are doing that locally around the world, then we are creating a chorus of hope. It's not just one
Ooh, I
single
love that.
voice. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to create a chorus in my own community, and I don't just mean like singing. I mean by all of us coming together to be a force for good. And so that's what I've been learning and focusing on, and trying to balance the heartache of ICE detention and
Yes, ma'am.
the abuse of the Haitian people, the abuse of women, the Epstein files, having a maniac in the White House with all his ilk behind him, and trying not to lose my mind, because it used to feel like every 10 steps forward, maybe I took 2 steps back. Now it seems like I take 2 steps forward and 10 steps back, and that can be overwhelming and frustrating and heartbreaking, and I can get really caught up in that, and I'm trying to remember, just stay local and do what I can within my own community.
A question on that. I love that, Sara. Do you think that this population here, we're starving for attention more than information, so to speak?
You mean like, for example, like how influencers are the new thing over the last few years?
Everyone's trying to
It's more of a me, a lot of me, and our ill-equipped leaders, so to speak, are me. Y yes, I think that kind of selfishness has always been there, and
Yeah.
not to badmouth influencers, there's some great influencers out there, but, I think the harm of technology is isolationism. And people think it brings us closer, but the amount of suicide attempts, suicides actually happening, um, the bullying of the LGBTQIA plus community, especially trans people, trans children, the bullying of women on how we look, what we wear, and the sexualization of young girls and boys, but mostly girls, is more prolific, I think, now than ever because people have access to bullying in ways they didn't before, and people feel justified in being mean, and because some of our leaders are mean, they feel like, oh, then that's okay if I'm mean, and that makes me not just unhappy, it makes me furious because I felt like, especially during the Obama years, we were getting to a place of progress where um, the diversity was so rich and people were starting to understand and be more accepting, at least on the surface. And as we know, since you know who came to office, it seems like the undergrowth of our society that was clinging to bullying and mean spiritedness and racism and sexism and ageism and xenophobia, it's flip flopped. Now they're ruling our country and our world and destroying all the good progress we made. So, if you mean in that light, yes, I I worry about the me-ness
So
of it.
So Sarah, what if, like I just got this gross image, y'all, but of cockroaches on, something within the light. So what if all this, the good stuff that's happening right now is all the dark is coming out so that we can see it. And now the big light, like the chorus of we all over the globe to shine it. I don't know.
You know, yeah, there is a benefit to seeing who's engaged in white nationalism and, the KKK and, but what's scarier is all the dark web stuff that we don't
Oh,
see,
I
and
know.
that's true.
the access that men have to hating women and feeling
Yeah.
justified in abusing and murdering women. Um, that's terrifying. But I think that's a good analogy of how the cockroaches are in the kitchen, so to speak. But there's a phrase that I learned from a woman named Guru Mai Chidlasananda. I went to her ashram several years ago in the Catskill
Very
Mountains,
cool.
and she talked about the word enthusiasm and how when you break it down into the Latin, in means to have inside, and theos is God. So she was talking about when we have enthusiasm, the light of God is shining from us, and that
Mm.
attracts people to us. So for those of us that are enthusiastic about kindness, about
You.
community, about caring, about lifting others up, um, that's what we have to cling to is that inner light that we shine and not let other people uh, cover it or change it or alter it or make us feel guilty for being happy and being a source of light and goodness.
That's right. I
Hmm.
love that. That's beautiful. Would you think also with how you've been in the community, music community, art community, just the humanity in general, do you believe that that can heal things that obviously politics and institutions can't? What we are just talking about, the life. But do you think that art, music, community can do that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, art, music, dance, poetry, theater, independent film, all of these things are accessible to anyone. And, having the internet is powerful in that you can upload a song you wrote or a poem you wrote or an indie film you made. So, of course, art always reflects back what's going on in society. That's why fascism always destroys the poets and the artists first. That's
Mm.
why they shut down journalism. That's why, because writers and singers and poets and dancers, we're the ones shining the light out to give people hope and to remind people this is good, this is bad, if I may be that simplistic. So, I was telling somebody I've never been afraid to be on stage, and I've had stalkers, I've had death threats, but I never felt afraid. Now this society feels darker and meaner, and I do feel afraid when I post a song that has to be that is about how Trump is evil and wrong, or I sing about a song about Eugene Goodman, the Capitol police officer that distracted all the crazy white men on January 6th and saved our representatives. Some of the feedback I get from that can be unnerving, but I feel it's important to continue to speak out. And I know that there's a lot of musicians and songwriters that are doing that. And so I worry, about speaking truth to power, but that doesn't stop me, and it doesn't stop a lot of other people from making, whether it's posters to singing a song, from speaking truth.
Thank you. And Sarah, one of the things that I wanted to hear from you, I think that there's a connection. I mean, obviously, by the way, I always say Yogi Berra type things that are obvious. David has a little book that are called lineisms of all the things I say that seem really profound, and they're not. But anyway, so I want to know what you believe is your purpose, and also how your music intersects with that, because my experience of you with music is you are such a love girl. I mean, you are loving the whole audience. You're giving out so much energy, which,
Okay. Well,
right?
that's 2 questions, so let's stop there. Um, yes, I've always known since I was 6 years old um, that I was given the intention, it was laid on my heart spiritually to make music, and to make people feel like they matter. I've never questioned that. I know when I got into the professional aspect of the music industry, there were people that wanted me to write differently, to write more fitting pop songs for a mass audience. And my feedback was always, well, I can only write Sarah Hickman songs because I'm Sarah Hickman. And so, there's a movie, Mr. Holland's Opus, and that movie really struck a chord with me because Richard Dreyfuss plays the main character, and he's a composer, and he works in a high school as the band leader. Da 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 da. Um, and he has this dream, though, that someday his compositions will be played by major orchestras around the world. But life keeps getting in the way. He has a deaf son. He goes through some stuff with his wife.
Mm.
And at the end, though, he walks in and all of his ex-students, so they're all different ages and colors and sizes of people, are on stage playing one of his orchestrations. And he realizes that his dream of being famous wasn't as important as his dream of touching people's hearts
Mm-hmm,
and giving
mm-hmm.
people the power of their own gifts. So I identified with that because I'm not mega famous. I never made it to the greener side. I made it just enough that I could continue to make music worldwide and make records and tour, and my connection with my audience was always first and foremost more important to me than being famous. And I'm really grateful to that because I still have people who follow me that's started way back in the late 80s,
Mm-hmm.
whose kids and their grandkids love my music because they are so enamored by me, which I can't believe.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
my audience may be small, but I'm really grateful to them because they've given me a beautiful life for me and my family simply by my making music. So I have my purpose. I
Yes.
have no doubt, and I hope I continue it until my deathbed.
You know, when
Mm.
I was first, there you go. I hope you do that too. Please do. The first time I heard you was when I really started deeply meditating in 1994. I mean, I meditated before then, but not seriously.
Mhm.
And I heard your music in our meditation because of the practice that I was utilizing, they used music to move you, internally to let go and to feel. So, yeah, that was when I was
Oh, that's
first. Isn't
cool.
that awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Sarah, what Cynthia doesn't remember is in 19, I was at Texas Monthly. So 1990, Cynthia, it might be true. She was working for AppScap, or however you say it, in Dallas.
ASCAP.
Yep. And that was
Wait,
when all kinds of,
wait, 1 second. Let's just explain for anybody that doesn't know what ASCAP is. There's ASCAP
thank you.
BMI, and they are both collection companies that retain the royalties of singer-songwriters. So ASCAP is one of the two. There you go. I'm BMI,
Well,
but
she couldn't say enough good things about you, so she bought that album that has the illustration of you on the front of it.
oh, that's Equal
And
Scary People, my first album.
right, and I remember hearing your voice and just being like, "Oh my God!"
I
You
know.
know, you really have it.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
bring your whole self. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you seem deeply committed to listening. I know you are. Listening, serving, and creating spaces where people feel seen. Where does that come from?
Well, it always starts with the artist. So, of course, as a child, I wanted to be seen and I wanted to be heard.
Mhm.
And I think my paternal grandparents, who were both musicians, they really kind of plucked me out of all the cousins because I played guitar early on. I got my first guitar at 6, and my
Wow.
parents would drive us every summer to go see my grandparents in Arkansas and Atlanta and Heflin, Alabama, where my great great grandparents lived. But in Rogers, Arkansas, my grandparents, my grandmother played piano and my grandfather played saxophone, and I would sit on the stool on the bench with my grandmother, and they would play all these songs from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s because
Cool,
they were
cool.
both in a big swing band.
Yeah.
And I could talk more about their background because it's really fascinating. But here I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and I would play my guitar with them while my grandpa was playing saxophone and my grandmother was playing piano. So I was doing 5'2", eyes of blue, and tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl beneath my. So I was playing jazz standards with two great jazz musicians and not knowing that I was getting this wonderful education vicariously by just sitting and listening and watching them and taking chances. They never told me I did anything wrong. So if I hit a clunker of a chord, we just kept going. And that also taught me that when you're on stage, if you make a mistake, just keep going. It doesn't really
Keep
matter. So
going.
they gave me a lot of freedom and a lot of gifts as a child.
That's a great metaphor for life too. She's so something that got my attention in your bio that I did not know about you, in reference to your work and service, is as the creative outreach director at St. Cecilia's Episcopal Church, where you do dedicated listening sessions. And you said that you simply listen to an individual for 45 minutes, no advice, no feedback, no judgment. What is that?
Well, I don't remember how I first heard about it, but um, before the pandemic, I thought it would be fun to do a listening session in downtown Austin, Texas. So it was me and 3 or 4 other women, and one of them was Muslim, and she had her headscarf on. And we took lawn chairs and we sat in front of one of the businesses after getting their permission, of course. And we had signs that said, "Simply here to listen."
Wow.
And people would walk by and go, "What is this?" And we'd say, "We're just here to listen. If you want to just unburden yourself or just talk, we're just going to listen. No advice, no feedback, no judgment." So we sat out there for about 8 hours, and we had all kinds of people, kids and
Mm.
couples and individuals, and we would just sit and listen, and, at first people would be awkward, like, waiting for my feedback or me to say something, and once they got comfortable in that silence of really getting to just speak, they would, and, you know, just tell us all kinds of stuff, and one of the things that really stuck with me, there was a big burly guy walking by, and he saw our friend who was Muslim, and he said something a little derogatory, and she just took it in stride, and then he asked her more about what it was, and she said, "Oh, I'm just here to listen." Well, he sat down for, like, almost 2 hours.
Mm.
They engaged, they actually ended up talking about the Muslim religion, and,
Mm.
uh, by the time he left, they hugged, and you could tell he was a changed man because we had given him the space to be heard, and he got to say his stuff, and she heard his stuff, and then he gave her space back to talk, so they ended up having a dialogue, which was really fantastic. So what I do with Saint Cecilia's is the same thing, except it's just me. I just sit there and people can make an appointment and come and just talk for 45 minutes, and, that's what it is, just listening.
Wow.
Very
That's
cool.
huge. That's huge.
That's
Wow. That's
impactful, you know?
And
Hey,
now Father Bill does it too now, so he'll sit and just listen.
so
You know
uh what's the difference between being heard and being fixed?
oh, that's a good one. That's a good
well, I'm not I'm not capable of fixing you, the only person capable of fixing you is yourself.
That's right.
So, I think that's a fallacy that you can go somewhere and get fixed emotionally.
yeah.
That's what therapy's for. It's a type of listening. If you have a really good therapist, they listen and then they ask you questions back that you have to answer. They don't give you answers. And that's a healthy form of listening. And you know, we live in a fast-paced society, and our brains aren't meant for how fast things are going. And our brains aren't meant to have more than 10 friends. And the fact that, I have 14,000 people following me or whatever, I'm not friends with 14,000 people. The reality is I'm friends with 10 awesome human beings. And then beyond
Mm.
that, I have a community of friends, up to 100 perhaps. But, you know, um, for me to change, I have to look inside and I have to take the the self-judgment out, and I have to replace that tape with love and support for where I'm at and who I am. And that's all I can do every day is take the negative tape out, put a positive tape in. And eventually you don't have as many negative cassettes. You just have a positive. And then you don't even have to do that because you're carrying yourself with grace and compassion. And, compassion is the biggest word we can give to ourselves, right? And a lot of people can't because they've had PTSD or they have had trauma or they've had abuse, and it takes a long time to get through that muck to get to where you can have compassion for yourself and love yourself just where you're at.
That's beautiful. Cynthia, you had a question, I think, about uh it it was something about, do you think art, music, and community?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that art, music, and community actually can heal things that politics and institutions can't? And I know we just addressed this a minute ago. Um,
Well, I think when institutions and policy and the politicians that make good policy include the arts,
mm,
I can say yes because I've been a music and an art therapist, and I have seen what engaging someone in art and music can do for their soul. You know, in fact, I'm really grateful to my parents because they were both visual artists, and our house was full of everything you could dream of: pens, pencils, paint, clay, weaving. And we were constantly making stuff. And when I got an awareness that we were kind of the oddballs on the street because no one else's parents in my neighborhood were doing that. So after a while, kids would come to our house because I was producing plays. I would have my little typewriter and I would write up a play, and then my mom would help me make curtains on our back porch, and she would find refrigerator boxes and we'd cut them out so I could make trees and, whatever set stuff I needed. And then I'd teach the kids their parts, and then we'd put on a play for the moms because the dads were all at work. And, I'd even draw tickets and we'd sell the tickets to the moms for 10 cents. And then we'd raid our kitchens and we'd put snacks out. And then they would get to go to our concession stand and buy our snacks. And then all kids, we'd take our money and we'd get on our bikes and ride to Dairy Queen and have a treat.
You
So
betcha.
my kids grew up in that same kind of environment because my parents instilled that in me. And so, like, we had a room where the walls were painted with blackboard paint, right? So the kids could draw with chalk and their friends could come over. And we had a little tiny art table that had paints and pens and colored pencils and paper, and kids could just go over there and start drawing. They didn't have to ask for permission to be creative. They just were creative. And now my kids are super hyper creative. And
Oh, yeah.
I think the sad part uh, in the world is that we give all this money to sports. No shade on sports.
Oh,
Sports
yeah,
are
that's
important
true.
for our bodies. But when we cut funding for the arts and languages, we lose so much because we learn, and it's been proven over and over that art and math and music are coordinated, right? They're parallel.
Of course. Of
So
course.
when I would go in and do Art Matters with Austin ISD, which was a great program, and I remember teaching about Andy Warhol or teaching about the difference between Manet and Monet. Kids loved it. And the sad part was I had 45 minutes to explain an artist, give an example by drawing on a whiteboard or drawing or showing slides or whatever, and then helping the kids create their own version of a Monet or a Manet or whoever. And then we would show it out in the hallway. Art takes space and time, and so when we cut funding, when policy and politics and institutions cut funding for the arts, they're really cutting hearts. They're cutting a future of a child's imagination, and our imaginations are what help us build policy and institutions and communities. So, big loss when we lose the arts.
Many of the projects that you're involved in are
Mhm.
in like helping people. So on that, what responsibility do you think that artists have to their communities?
Well, I think, and it's not just artists, like there's a woman in Austin named Lynn Brooks, and she, at some point realized that all those plastic recorders the kids learn for one semester were being thrown away. And so she started going around to AISD schools and gathering these plastic recorders in the little cloth bags they come in, and she cleans them. And so, for like example, the first time I went to Uganda, she gave me 180 recorders to
Oh,
take to these children in Uganda. And when I passed them out, as life goes, it was exactly 180 children.
oh
And
my goodness.
I will tell you, kids in America, not all the children, take it for granted the things they have. Everything's disposable. These children in Uganda, when they got these recorders, it was like someone had handed them gold. They were walking around trying to figure it out. They were excited that another child's name was written on the cloth bag. "Oh,
Oh,
look, auntie, I got the recorder from Cindy in Austin. Look at the flowers she drew." They were so enamored, and by the end of the day, they were playing songs, and I will tell you why that's important because the last time I went to Uganda in 2023, which was 10 years later, a
Mhm.
young man came up and was playing, a recorder like Miles Davis, and I couldn't believe. I was like,
wow.
"You are fantastic." And he says, "Auntie, do you remember me?" And I said, "No." And he says, "It's me, Jeffrey. You brought me the recorder 10 years ago."
Oh
And
my God.
I had walked around a corner 10 years earlier, and he was there playing Amazing Grace. He'd worked on it all day, and it was beautiful. Now, I had people who in my community donated, saxophones, flutes, trumpets, smaller, tangible items, and I sent them back over to Uganda, and Jeffrey has those instruments so he can teach other kids because I said, "You need a saxophone, Jeffrey." So now he has a saxophone. So yes, as an artist, it's important that I speak up and I get involved and I engage others to help in these missions, but just everyday people who may not be artists are helping other people become artists by thinking with intention, like Lynn Brooks did, and gathering these things that were disposable that mean so much to other children in another country that they couldn't obtain. So it takes a village to say that phrase. It really does. It's not just the artists. It takes people open to innovation and ideas that want to help artists, but also help future generations on becoming artists.
Mm, mm, mhm.
God bless.
I mean, what keeps you engaged, Sarah, rather than like fucking discouraged and
Oh, I
down and
get I get fucking discouraged. I trust me. But you know what? I have faith. I have and I get God messages all the time, nudges or whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
And a- as I've aged, as I've gotten older, I don't ever question those nudges because 99.9% of the time they come true.
That's
So
true.
it's not my place to question it. You know, when God told me to go to Romania, I went to Romania. Did I know what I was doing? No, but I went and I had an amazing experience. You know, when I was talking to Lynn Dobson and she was going on and on about Africa, and I said, "Oh, I wish I could go to Africa with you." And she said, "Well, why don't you?" And I was like, "Well, because I'm a musician. I don't have like kind of disposable funds." And then she's like, "Well, come on." And then, that that God nudge led me to produce an album with her, with the African Children's Choir, and it helped Lynn Brooks come forward and say, "Here's these recorders. Can you take them?" And I said, "Yes." It unlocked all these other things that I think God wants me to do. And again, it doesn't have to be a big splashy thing where I win an award for it. It's more of me sharing the gifts that I've been given to help other people unlock their gifts. And if I don't do it, who am I not helping to unlock, and that makes me sad. I want everybody to live to their fullest potential. Did
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
answer your question? I hope
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's
yes,
good.
Sarah, you have so many stories. So, what does courage look like today to you? What is being courageous?
You know, um, Being courageous is stepping right into it. I remember, yeah, being courageous is recognizing that our lives are temporary. We're so invested in how important we are as self, which is true, you know.
Yeah.
But once I'm gone, I'm gone. It's not. There's nothing else I can do. So if I have to take a bullet for somebody, but it helps 10 other people move forward, then and experience freedom, true freedom, then it's worth it. I just read today how ICE just took a nun in McAllen, Texas, who was her crime was driving to church.
Oh, come on.
And so it made me think about I don't know, maybe 7 years ago or something like that. Well, during the first Trump administration, that's when it happened. My friend Kathy Carr and me and Robin Rather and a group of women drove to McAllen, Texas. I went online and said, I'm going to McAllen to help people who've been detained, who are being released into the care of Mother Norma and all these Catholic nuns, and probably including this woman who was arrested today by ICE, um, because they are helping people who are being released from detention. So when I said that online, I raised $10,000 in an hour. And I
Wow.
took that money because people trust me and I take their trust very seriously. We drove to McAllen, and it was my first time to go into um, what's the name? Not Walmart. What's the other thing that people like so
Target,
much?
uh,
Target?
No, 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 no.
Sam's,
What's the other?
Costco.
Costco. I'd never been in a Costco, and Kathy had a membership. So we went in Costco. I bought $10,000 worth of giant things of corn and beans, and we bought bags of rice. We bought tiny little shoes and socks for children. We bought T-shirts for adults. We had a train with all these rolling platforms just covered in food and clothes,
I love it.
and paid the $10,000 out. went to Sister Norma, Mother Norma, and all these nuns. We were I think we were there for 3 or 4 days. We were seeing people who were exhausted, who had arrived in this country after walking thousands of miles in the same clothing they had worn all that time. They didn't get new clothes in these detention centers. They were really hungry. Most of them didn't speak English. I ended up, we were making food for them. They got to have a shower. They got to spend the night on a pallet. They got to go to different sections in this warehouse to pick up clothes and socks and shoes and hats if they needed them. And they all got a bus ticket, and they all got a sign that to carry on this bus ride to wherever they're going that said, "I don't speak English. Please help me get to," and we fill out the name of the city and the name of the contact and the phone number.
Aw.
And I will tell you, I ended up working with the children, and a lot of these parents were just worn out. Like, I've never
Yeah, of
seen
course.
such worn out people, and they were just falling asleep. And I was trying to talk to these children in Spanish and drawing with them. And there was children, I've never seen this, who were so gone. I had one little boy who was sitting at a table like this for an
Hmm.
hour. I got under the table and was laying on
Good.
the floor, talking to him, looking up at him. And it was, I don't know what he experienced, but it was horrific. And at the end of the hour, I got a really small smile, and I drew him a horse. And,
Aw.
you know, the the trauma the trauma of what people are enduring is horrific. Anyway, I don't even know what your question was, but that's courage. Is
Yeah, it
we walked
is.
into it, and we did our best with the funds we had, and we tried to help all of those nuns. God bless them. They were working so hard, and they were seeing up to sometimes 800 people a day come through this warehouse in
Wow.
McAllen, Texas.
What brings you the greatest joy these days, Sarah?
When my kids are happy, I'm happy.
Oh, okay. We're gonna do something. You want to do the fun round, Lynn? How about if I do
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Sarah,
These- Yeah.
these are lighter
Rap-
questions, rapid fire. Just first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Favorite thing about Smithville?
Everybody. Oh, wait, let me tell you one more quick thing. So today I was at the post office because I know everybody at the post office, Bernarda and Jenny. And as I was leaving, Jenny goes, "Love you." And I was like, "Love you too." And I thought,
Aw.
that's what I love about Smithville is I know the mayor, I know the chief of police, I know most of the people on the police force, I know the librarian, I know, it's like knowing people and knowing their names and knowing that you could express love is
think
the best.
it's sweet.
Yeah,
Sarah, I
yeah.
think our producer's from Smithville. Is that right, Lynn?
I
Isn't
don't
she?
know, honey.
Cool.
I think
I
she
don't know.
is.
Okay,
Anyway,
next question. Keep going.
Okay, song you wish you had written.
Oh, I wish I'd written this song. Well, Cassandra Wilson does a cover of Harvest Moon by Neil Young, and it's the most beautiful thing you've ever heard. And Lance and I got married to that version.
I love.
Unbelievable. I
Oh
wish
man.
I wish I'd done her version of Neil Young's song.
Okay. All right. Who would you love to have dinner with?
Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum and Mariska Hargitay and wait, and Angie Harmon. She's my new favorite. Those three
Very
people.
cool. Very
And
cool.
of course,
Very
Michelle
cool.
and Barack Obama. That's
Oh
it.
my goodness, yo. Let's have a dinner party, Sarah. What are you curious about right now?
I'm curious how to stop fascism.
how to stop what?
Fascism.
Oh.
There you go, girl. Yeah.
Okay, what makes you laugh every time?
Lance, my husband makes me laugh really hard. Like
Oh.
yeah, he's really funny. I don't know that people know that about him, but he can make me laugh till I pee my pants. Like he's really.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. So, Cynthia,
Yes,
take it
ma'am.
out, baby.
Okay.
Go
so
ahead and do the closing questions.
Sarah, we're just gonna wind it down now. One thing I want to ask you before we go into this is, what would you like people to remember? Just remember
You mean about me, or you mean about life in general, or?
whatever that means to you.
I would like people to remember that it's just as easy to be kind as it is to be mean. So just frickin' be kind. What's wrong? Kindness is cool. Kindness is the fizzle, man. It's the best. And you know what?
Fizzle.
You leave feeling lighter when you're kind. When you're mean, you leave feeling really bad. So
See,
try
that's my
kindness.
tattoo. Kindness tattoo.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love
Yeah.
it. Well, this is a great place for us to end. And Sara, thank you so much for giving us your beautiful heart and time. You're just lovely. This has been inspiring, thought-provoking, and deeply human. We appreciate not only your music and your creativity, but the way you continue creating spaces where people feel seen, heard, and connected. And by the way, I'm going to challenge you to do a really pretty Sara version of Harvest Moon, please.
Oh my God.
Wow. The perfect version is already out there. I'm telling you, when you hear it, you're going to cry. It's magnificent. It really is. It's so profound.
Well, you and Lily do my favorite version of the Tears for
Mad
Fears
World?
song.
Mad
That is
World.
my favorite version ever.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you. And I have to give a shout out to my friend Gretchen Phillips because she does the high keening note in it. It's so beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's
nice.
cool.
And I produced that, so I'm really proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. So you can find links to Sara's music, upcoming performances, podcasts, community projects, and more in our show notes down below. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe down below. Follow and share Another Way to Think About It with somebody who might enjoy or really need at this time thinking differently alongside us. And as always, stay open, stay curious, and keep thinking differently.